Okay, thank you guys for joining us for our Titus webinar today. I'm going to go straight to it and send over to CJ.
Hi, Selena. Thank you very much for the introduction there. I much appreciate. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join this webinar today. We're really excited to hopefully showcase some of the value that Titus has been offering, and hopefully this will be something that you can take to your customers and prospects alike. So just as a very quick introduction about Titus and who we are, we started off in 2005, and the history was that our co-founders were DRM consultants for the Canadian and Australian DoD, and they experienced challenges when it came to consistently applying encryption. So thus, labels were created as a way to help with bypassing that, and classification was born in its true form then. And since then, we've made many evolutions. In 2017, we're recently acquired by Blackstone, which hopefully is testimony to our innovation and leadership within the data protection space. Our headquarters are based in Ottawa, Canada, and we have thousands of customers across the globe in many different sectors as well. So we have found that there's many challenges, especially when it comes to data leakage, and the main causes of the data breach tend to be caused by humans. As we can see, we have 88% of data breaches coming from the human factor as opposed to maliciousness and also system glitches. And we typically tend to see that this is caused not by employees that are malicious, but by employees that are just doing their jobs and make mistakes when they're trying to follow processes and protocols. But the unfortunate reality is that these impacts also have negative consequences, and that could be loss of customers. It could also be loss in reputation, and it could also result in loss in employment as well. So Titus, we fit into this picture where we're helping to combat and mitigate the human factors that can affect data breaches. And there's a number of ways in which we're helping to do that through leveraging technologies such as AI and machine learning as well. But Titus, we feel that we are that puzzle piece that can help with solving these challenges when it comes to human error. So a quick use case, which I think resonates with many people here, is that we have Bob, who is a financial analyst and he works for a bank. He's preparing data for his CFO, who's called Mark Jennings, and this will include all financial and compensation information for said senior executives at this bank. Once he's completed this, he then decides to send it. On his way home, he gets an uneasy feeling, so he decides to check the work that he's done, and he realizes that he's not actually sent it to his CFO, Mark Jennings, but he sent it to an external contractor as well. So as we can see here, we have a simple case of an employee doing their job, maybe fatigued or for some other reason, they make a mistake, and this is a genuine and honest mistake. However, a mistake like this can be costly to an organization, and it can have a very negative impact. And I'm sure that there are many examples or many times where we've also fallen foul to this before, or nearly fallen foul, and this is another reason why Titus can help with mitigating said challenges. So, as we can see here, we've been in the data protection space for the last 15 years. And what we tend to notice is that petabytes of information is being created. We have all these platforms along the top here where users are interacting and creating lots of information. And we typically tend to see that information is created that doesn't have identity or context behind it. We also see that data is shared internally and externally of a business without the appropriate guardrails or rules. And another challenge is that downstream technologies such as DLP, CASB, and encryption solutions, they can't always work to the best of their ability because of the lack of context. And this can cause disruption not only to the user workflow, but then it can inhibit the ability for these investments to get the most out of what they were purchased for in the first place. Titus can help with solving these three challenges that I previously mentioned by helping with identifying and classifying sensitive data. Whether that's data that's being created in motion or that's legacy data at rest, we're able to help with the identification and adding context to that information. we can apply rules and policies to ensure that information is shared internally and externally that fits the needs of your business. We recognize that there is not one size that fits all when it comes to this particular need. However, there needs to be that granularity and flexibility, and we can help with that. And finally, the main value is that we can help with ensuring that you get the most from your downstream technologies through the application of metadata. This enables your DLP, your CASB, next generation firewall, etc. to work better because they can leverage the metadata, they understand the context of the information that they're handling, and they can make better informed decisions. So with the way that Titus helps with identifying, there's three main components which comprise the Titus data detection engine, and these really help with how we can identify accurately sensitive information. So the first being Smart Regex, which is a more sophisticated version of regex. And this goes one step above and relies on tokenization, which enables the increase in accuracy and detection of the regular expressions within a body of an email or a document. We have automated categorization, which is powered by machine learning. So this is when a corpus of data is fed with sample documents, and once this corpus has been trained, it's able to recognize categories and types of information. And this might be information that is specific to an organization, where maybe regular expression cannot understand what the context is, but through being able to identify templates and patterns within a document, we can ensure that that information is recognized accordingly. And then we also have the Titus Accelerator for Privacy, which is based upon a deep learning engine, which is able to automatically scan emails and documents for PII, PHI, or financial information. As we can see here, we have a mortgage loan agreement. So rightly so, it's been classified as confidential. But that begs a question. Is there more to this document than just the confidential label? Because as we can see, there's a lot of information in here, but we have names, we have addresses, we have financial information. There's a lot more to the story than just confidential. And this is where Titus can really help out. We go above and beyond just the classification of confidential, and we're able to search this body of text and find out what exactly is sensitive. We have names and addresses, as mentioned. We have national insurance numbers. There's a multitude of information that helps to build this picture out, and it helps us understand that clearly there is more to this than just confidential. And through our data identification, we're adding more context, and the more context you feed in, that means that your downstream security technologies will work better because they have more information to work with. Just going to pass this over to my colleague Sylvan, where he'll give you a quick run through of the Titus classification suite and how it all works.
Thank you, CJ. So I'm sharing my screen now. I hope everybody can see it. So my name is Sylvain Hennig. I'm a pre-sales engineer here at Titus. So today I will demonstrate to you how Titus looks on the user perspective and how Titus can help you to protect your data. So what I'm showing you right now is a desktop of a Windows 10 virtual machine. I am simulating an endpoint here. And as a user, I will just start by opening Microsoft Word. I will just add some random content in that document. And the first thing that you will notice is at the top right of your screen, you'll see the Titus one-click classification ribbon. So here you can see 4 levels of classification, but keep in mind that everything I'll be showing you today is based on a demo configuration and that there is no organization that has the same classification needs as another organization. Titus is entirely flexible. So all you can see here is based on what we have configured for that demo. So you will see public, internal, confidential, highly confidential. Each of them has a color that is also customizable. You will find a help button that will bring to a help page that is totally customizable. And most importantly, you find an advanced Titus classification button. So from here, you will get the same classification level as the one available in the one-click classification ribbon, except that this time you will find a bit more details. You will be able to provide more details, more granularity in your classification. So for example, here, if I select confidential, I will be able to select which department it is confidential with. If I select internal, I will have a drop-down menu with the different partners. I will be able to type the name of a new partner. All of that will be kept in the metadata that will be available for your DLP solution, etc. And most importantly, you can see here that we have configured a flag that will basically reflect if that document contains personal information. So with the regulation like GDPR that are important today, you will want to keep track on which documents contains personal information here. So you will be able to allow your user to tag those documents. So as a user now, you can see that I haven't classified that document, and I will just try to save it on my desktop. And what you notice here is that Titus is preventing the user to save that document without a classification. We are enforcing the classification here. So you can see the message, it's just asking for a classification level, and then that will be a manual classification. So now I will go back to my document that is not saved, not classified, and I will add some sensitive information. So for that demo, I am using a fake credit card number, but keep in mind that we can detect anything that is sensitive for you. So credit card number are just easy for us, to demonstrate that. And I will try to save that document again. And now you can notice that the message is different. So it says that PCI was identified in this document and that the recommended classification is restricted, not that any other selection will be audited. And now we already populated that view for the user. So we are suggesting a classification based on what we have found. We are explaining that to the user. We are educating them, telling them that PCI should be restricted, but then we let the user select what they want. So that is what we call a suggestion. And keep in mind that Titus can also automatically classify documents for you. So that will be smoother for the user because they won't get interrupted, they won't get that pop-up, but they won't get involved like a suggestion would do. We are basically educating them, and if you decide to automatically classify your documents, that's something the user won't see, and they may be confused, they may not understand the classification then. And you can see the flag just right here for personal information. So I will say that that one does not contain PII. I will validate that view. And now I am able to save my documents. So I will save it on my desktop with a very simple name. And what you can notice now is Titus automatically added visual markings to that document. So I have a header, a footer, and a watermark in the middle of my first page here. So all of that is also customizable. You can reflect anything you want, like the username, any timestamp, that will be possible. So most importantly, what we have been adding to that document is the metadata. So those will be available for any security software that you are running in your infrastructure, any DLP solution, next-gen firewall, right management solution, you name it. They will be able to access the metadata and basically act accordingly. So here you will find the classification fields, T class 4, which is highly confidential. That value here is T class 4 because we decided not to reflect highly confidential in that demo policy, but that is up to you. You have the flexibility of doing that. You will find the PII flag just right here that I've set to no, and a retention period. So because it was PCI information, in that configuration, we decided to keep them for 10 years. So that is why that retention date is in 2030. So only 3 fields here, but keep in mind that you don't have any restriction here. You can add as many metadata that you want. You can be as granular as you want and feed your security software with the information that they need. So I will close Office for now. And you will notice that the Office document I've been created is now on my desktop with a red icon here that reflects highly confidential. And if I do a right click on it, you will see that Titus is sitting in Windows Explorer and that the user will be able to change the classification from there. So we are not limited to Office documents. I've been demonstrating Office, but that is just one use case. Titus can classify any file types in your file system. And here you can notice that I just created a new text document that can be anything. And I will be just able to do a right click on it, select the classification, and I will get my Titus classification icon on the top of it. So blue for internal. So in some cases, we are not expecting the users to manually come back to their folder and manually classify their documents. A good example of that scenario is the download folder. Users will browse their intranet, their internet, downloading a lot of files. Some of them will contain sensitive information, and you are not expecting them to go back to the download folder and manually classify them. That won't happen. So what Titus can do is monitor those folders, and as soon as a new file is created, we will scan it, and if we identify something sensitive, then we will automatically classify it. So all of that is customizable. You decide what Titus will do based on what you find. So here I have an example of 3 documents that are not classified at all. There is no icons on them. If I do a right click, you can see that classification is not ticked. So I will just copy those files, and that will simulate a download. I will paste them in my download folder. And what you notice is after a few seconds, they have been automatically classified. So that text document contains some sensitive information. That is a credit card number, the same one I've been using in Word earlier. And you can see that Titus found it, picked it up, and automatically classified it as highly confidential. So what I'm demonstrating here is just few things that Titus can do. You can automate a lot of stuff based on the classification, based on what Titus discovered. If you want to trigger encryption, that's something you can do as well. You will be able to have control on that. So during his presentation, CJ mentioned a use case that is very common, a very common mistake that a lot of people have done in the past. That happened to me as well. It's just a common mistake. So I will just replicate that using Titus now. I will try to share that highly confidential document I created earlier with you. And I will try to share that with my colleague, Bob Jones. So if I type Bob in my address bar, I will find 2 Bobs. So Bob Jones, which is my colleague, and Bobby Jones, which is an external person. So for that demo, I do the mistake on purpose. I will just select both of them, Bob Jones and Bobby Jones. I will add a subject here. I will add some random contents to my email. And I will try to send that email. So you notice that I haven't classified that email. So the same way we enforce classification in Office, we can enforce classification in Outlook. So an email that is not classified cannot be sent. So if there were no attachments that were classified, I would have got the same message as in Office, just saying, please select a classification. But here I have an attachment that is highly confidential, so the message is slightly different. It says that the following attachments are classified higher than this email message. Please upgrade the email classification or remove the attachments. So I will be forced to basically select a classification that is at least highly confidential. So I will just select that. It does not contain personal information, and I will try to send it. And now Titus will interrupt me again and say that the following external recipients may not be authorized to receive these emails with this classification. Please confirm, check authorized recipients, and I can see Bobby Jones at external shouldn't be receiving that email. So I have a remediation button just right there that will remove that recipient. So I will just click on it, and you can see that Bobby Jones has been removed, and my email is now going through. So if I looked at the email that has been sent, you can see that it has been sent to only Bob Jones, that it has the attachments, and we have been adding visual markings. So here we are showing the name of the person that selected the classification highly confidential with a timestamp. And we also added SendSecure here. We did that in that demo configuration just to reflect that we could have triggered encryption on that email straight away, just because email is highly confidential. That is a way to automate any other software in your infrastructure. So I will close that up. Okay. So what I've been demonstrating you so far was how Titus can help on your endpoint using Titus classification suites to classify your data, to accompany your users or automatically classify your documents. So we are able to do that for data at creation, data in motion using TCS, but we also have a solution for data at rest. The name of that solution is Titus Illuminate, and that is a scanning tool that will basically be able to discover your data on file shares, on cloud storages, and apply a classification, apply the metadata that you want. So those two solutions, Titus classification suites and Titus Illuminate, can detect data with different ways. So that was what CJ presented in his presentation. So he mentioned regular expression, smart regex, machine learning, and TAP, Titus Accelerator for Privacy. So those four technologies are part of what we call a Titus detection engine. And what I'll be demonstrating to you right now is how we can leverage TAP, which is our deep learning engine that is already trained to identify any personal information, how you can leverage that to automate classification, to detect personal information, and to flag them. So personal information are known for being difficult to detect, simply because of the way we use to detect information. In the industry, we have been using regular expression for decades, and personal information, it's not that easy to detect using regular expression. A good example would be health information. If you use just the keywords, if you use regular expression to detect health information, you'll end up detecting a lot of false positive. So what I'm showing you right now is my own corporate Outlook. So we are leveraging our own technology at Titus. And what I'll do is I will try to send an email that does not contain personal information, that just says, that video you sent early gave me a heart attack. It was so funny. And I will try to send that email. And what we do in our internal policy is we display an assessment to the user of the PII sensitivity. And that is leveraging TAP. And you can see that TAP detected no personal information in that email, and we automated the personal flag to no. And that makes sense because that sentence does not contain any personal information, right? But now, if I was using just a regular expression on heart attack, I would have been detecting that as a personal information, and that's not what we want to accomplish here. So I will send another email this time. And this time, that will be an announcement saying that my colleague Bob Jones has suffered from a heart attack, and he is in hospital right now, and it will be off for 2 months. And we'll keep in touch, to discuss this. So now we'll try to send that email, and you can see that the PII sensitivity assessment is now critical, and that TAP has been able to detect health information and name, and that we automatically set the flag to yes. So TAP here is just leveraging the context of the sentence. Just by using regular expression, we would have not been able to detect that, but because the deep learning engine is able to consider the context, then it was able to identify that was a personal information. So now TAP can be leveraged in a lot of different ways. You just decide how you want to leverage that. Internally, we use it to automate that flag. You can leverage it to automatically classify your data, to add some specific metadata to your documents. For example, the number of phone numbers that are in that email, in that document, the number of email address, etc. You can just decide how you can leverage TAP. So I think that's it for me right now. That was what I wanted to demonstrate for you today. So I will give it back to CJ. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Sylvan. I do appreciate. So the main takeaways from what Sylvan has just demonstrated is the value in which Titus can provide to customers and partners alike. So we're able to reduce the risk by helping with the controlling of the flow of sensitive information. As we saw, we can stop with information from leaving the organization externally, but there's a number of ways in which we can apply controls in order to ensure that data is safeguarded within your organization. The time to value for Titus is extremely fast as well. From what has been demonstrated, you saw that we have the one-click classification solution, which is extremely easy, very easy to learn as well, and hopefully the buy-in from your employees shouldn't take too long, just because it's non-intrusive, it sits very much in the ribbon, and it doesn't interrupt the workflow. And then the automation part. We can help with enhancing your downstream technologies by adding that extra context and that metadata to ensure that they work better. We have the automation that's embedded within our own solution, which is the machine learning element, and also the Titus Accelerator for Privacy and the Smart Regex, which hopefully will help with the more smooth identification of information, and that can be done automatically and help to alleviate the burdens from your own end users when it comes to identifying sensitive information as well. Titus, our metadata is open, flexible, and readable. And we sit centrally when it comes to organizations' data protection stacks. We have a multitude of tools and technologies here, and all these tools can integrate and interoperate with our solution because they are able to recognize our metadata. And even if there's a solution that isn't on here, there's a high chance that we can work with it just because they are able to understand our open APIs and hopefully build an integration as well. So please note that you may be working with some vendors that may not necessarily be on this map, but there is a high chance that we can also work with them as well. And to conclude, as we can see, we've been in this space for the last 15 years, and we've worked with a plethora of different organizations from multiple sectors. Organizations that can span from the military space with extremely high security requirements, financial space, healthcare as well, where there's extreme need to monitor PII information and PHI, or also education sector as well, or organizations that are maybe at the start of their data protection journey. We understand, as mentioned before, that there isn't a one size that fits all approach, and when it comes to ensuring the efficiency and the optimization of your data protection tools, there needs to be flexibility in there in order to incorporate the needs of your organization. And from doing this for 15 years, we can confidently say that we are one of the best vendors to help with enabling you to achieve your data protection needs. That is me done. So I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to listen to my presentation today and also the demonstration too.
Thank you, CJ. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A. And while we wait for people to put their questions in, David, do you want to kind of explain how Sigma can help?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, CJ, and the Titus team there for your support on this webinar. I think it's a great opportunity to introduce Titus to a variety of resellers today. Sigma is on hand to support you as well. We will be following up with this slide deck and a call with myself just to hear your thoughts. It would be good to have a conversation with you to understand a little bit more about your customers and your end users in particular, and then opening the door to Titus to them. So it's something I'm definitely looking forward to, and I'll be speaking to you all soon. So thank you again for your time today. I'll just have a quick look. Does anybody have any questions at all? I don't know, that's fine. I think that is everything. So again, thank you for your time. And yeah, I will speak to you all soon. I think that'll be it for today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.